Ladies and gentlemen, I know this cat can sing, though. The fantastic Merle Haggard.
Turned 21, imprisoned in life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried, Mama tried to raise me better, but her pleading I denied. That leaves only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried. The one true friend I thought I'd found, tonight the bottle let me down. I'm proud to be an Okie from Muskogee, a place where even squares can have a ball. We still wave Old Glory down at the courthouse, and white lightning's still the biggest thrill of all.
You know, the tribute came up in the early 2000s. I wanted to thank all the musicians that were coming all the way to Steamboat, all the way from Texas. And I wanted to put them in front of somebody that's inspired their music, the music we're listening to today. But this year, Merle Haggard, we couldn't be more excited to be honoring such an icon in the country music scene. And Merle Haggard checks off all the boxes of being a phenomenal songwriter. You know, one of the things that really comes to my attention with Merle Haggard is his songs that relate to real life. And that reminds me a lot of the Texas and Oklahoma music. It's all about real life experiences, and some funny, some not so funny. But Merle Haggard, amazing career. And we couldn't be more happy than to honor the Merle Haggard.
I feel like Merle Haggard is the greatest of all time when it comes to country music. And just as an American artist, and how his importance can't be overstated. He was an amazing songwriter, amazing guitar player. He played the fiddle as well, incredible singer, and a historian of music. Like it was a really important artist for American music, not just country music, but just for American music, period. He understood all of it.
Or if I'm working on some road gang, or just living off the fat of our great land. I've never been nobody's idol, but at least I got a title, and I take a lot of pride in what I am.
Merle Haggard, I grew up in a family that was not particularly musical, so I didn't come up being a super fan of anyone by way of my parents, other than Bob Wills and Merle Haggard. Whenever I was little, I didn't want to be a singer. I didn't want to do this for a living. I didn't know that this was a thing. But I wanted, as an 8-year-old girl, to stand on stage and sing a song with Merle Haggard. That was it. I was like, I don't care what I do. I never want to be a singer, but I want to sing with Merle Haggard.
And keep your retirement and your so-called Social Security. Big city turned me loose and set me free.
I mean, the Big City record, best of my recollection, probably 81. And Haggard just took over the entire house. Well, we had Hag pins and posters, and Dad was drinking George Dickel just because. Like when Merle would have a new record, I remember Dad putting it on that thing and shutting the glass door and playing pool, and just listening to it over and over and over and over. And Dad's excitement of, man, that was a good record. Let's listen to it again.
And I know how much Merle meant to Dale, too.
A whole lot, yeah.
And this is a guy who, sure, he was great, this thing, but he meant more to us than that, because he was the guy who, when we were very young, formed our musical taste and opinion.
You know what I'm surprised to hear you say about Merle, that, it's definitely true for me. I even had him sign the 8-track of Tribute to the Best Damn Fiddle Player in the World. And that was actually where I learned the most about Bob Wills.
Yeah.
From Merle.
And Jimmy Rogers and everything. He was so deep.
And that moonlit path beside the Alamo. My rose of San Antonio.
You know, he just affected so many people on so many different
that's
genres.
Yeah, that's such a different bunch of people, and yet in not just country music, but rock and roll songwriting. I mean, the guy was a songwriting legend.
Spend the early morning drinking coffee, talking about when I'll be coming back. But I don't let no woman tie me down, and I'll never get too old to get around. I wanna die along the highway and ride away like some old highline pole. And a restless rambling fever in my soul. Rambling fever, the kind that can't be measured by degrees. No kind of cure for my disease.
And I think Merle really pulled from Jimmy Rogers and Ernest Tubb, Lefty Frizzell in a really big way, and Bob Wills, of course. All of these guys had a presence in going out to California to make music. And Merle would go and see all of them. There's a famous story about Merle going to see Lefty Frizzell, and he's just a kid. And he meets Lefty Frizzell because somebody told Lefty, this guy does the best impersonation of you. And he was really good at doing that with all kinds of different artists. And Lefty loved it and put him on stage. And there's a great biography about Merle Haggard called Sing Me Back Home, reading about his early years before he went to prison and all the stuff that he would do. And this is a guy who would hop on a train and just ride it to another town. He would steal cars, and his experiences, as hard as they were coming up, you know, are what influenced where he was going with the music.
There's a pair of blue eyes down in Texas, crying for me, crying for me.
You know, I got to say this, everybody kind of gravitates toward the Texas sound and the grounded music of Texas, from all the artists that come from here. You know, there's artists that may not have been born in Texas, but they paid attention to what's coming out of Texas and this area. And Merle Haggard, no doubt, when he did a tribute to Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, there's just so much here, and it is just natural for Merle to be part of this Texas scene. There's no doubt about it. And he has had such a huge impact on all these artists. I can't state that enough. It's just, you can't listen to Texas music without hearing some Merle in the mix in there.
Well, hey, a working man like me, he ain't never been on welfare. One place he won't be, he'd be working. As long as his two hands are fit to use. He might drink a little beer that evening and sing a little bit of these working man blues. Thank you very much. You stayed with me through thick and thin. You watched me lose, you watched me win.
It's really hard to narrow it down with Merle Haggard. He's one of the artists that I can put on and leave on all day long. You can know a lot about his music and still be surprised.
And you put me on a natural high, and I can fly, I can fly.
But Haggard was just, I always think about that one song, Old Things Are New, and he says, just like the roaring 20s and the roaring 80s, too. You know, like the 20s and the 80s were so the same to him because it was just everybody was dancing and having a good time and drinking and being merry, you know. So the 80s was his thing, you know, and it seemed like every other song on the radio was Rainbow Stew or Big City. Big City's still my favorite. I say that a lot, but that's the one. That's the song. And then, of course, when he would join forces with Willie, you know, it was like the perfect storm at the house, you know. And
I don't need your prayers, it's true. Save a few for Lefty too. He only did what he had to do. And now he's growing old.
He came out of California and created this whole, like brought this jazz type of music into country music and made all of those good old boys think that it was simple. You know, like that stuff is complicated. And he was such a great guitar player and such a great songwriter to be able to make such complicated ideas seem so simple. And then the whole load of people that came after him that then wanted to emulate that. Like the influence that he had on country radio and mainstream country radio in the 70s and the 80s, you can't even quantify it.
But here I am again, mixing misery and gin, sitting with all my friends and talking to myself.
I celebrate the man's entire catalog, okay? And that's true. I mean, all stages of his career are ones that I love. But I mean, if we're being honest, you know, that early 80s period is really hard to beat. All of those type of tunes where he basically hired a bunch of jazz musicians and taught them to play country, that's probably the deepest well right there.
Honey, I love you too. That's the way love goes. That's the way love goes, babe. That's the music God made.
I think that it's really cool that there's a whole new group of people coming up learning about Merle Haggard. Like, could you imagine just learning? Like, I remember when my friends discovered Christofferson, I was like, I'm jealous of you. Like the things that you're about to create because you just discovered Christofferson, and all these young kids that are coming up now because the hip thing is to be, you know, 80s. Like all those kids that are in their 20s that are just discovering Merle Haggard. Like, what are you gonna do? You have everything at your fingertips. Anyway, I think that it's great that the MusicFest is honoring him this year, and I'm so happy to have been included.
And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried to raise me better. Her pleading I denied. Leaves only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried.
The first one that comes to mind is Mama Tried, but that's there's a connection there from when I was doing some shows, and I was fortunate enough to get to produce a Merle Haggard show. This was when country music on the radio was a little bit different place, and they had kind of turned their backs on folks like Jerry Jeff and Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson. And I had the connection with this small little saloon on 6th Street, about 1,000 capacity. And so we're going to do a music series and call it the Outlaw Thursdays series and focus on these musicians like Merle Haggard. So, Merle was on the stage, playing his tunes, and, we were all in on. It was the full house. As I was standing there, I felt somebody kind of standing next to me, and we're backstage, or the side of the stage, for, if you want to call it a backstage area. And I turned to look around, to look over, and if anybody can relate to the Love You Blue days, the Houston Oilers days, lo and behold, I'm standing next to Earl Campbell. So anybody that knows Earl Campbell knows of his legendary years in Houston and at UT. Next thing I know, Merle Haggard asked Earl Campbell up on stage. Now, I can't sit there and say that Earl Campbell can carry a tune, but it didn't matter. You know, Earl Campbell knew every word, every part of that song. And of course, the crowd went nuts. But the thing is, what you saw is two guys having a lot of fun. And Merle Haggard, being the huge icon, you know, he'd bring somebody up on stage to just have fun with. And it was so grounded and so genuine. You know, it's kind of one of those things that, you know, these are the kind of artists I want to work with the rest of my life. The ones that are, you know, have those close friends and are not afraid to bring them up on stage. And, you know, it was really a special show.
That's all in the movies. It won't happen to us, I know. That's all in the movies. Just a bad picture show.
You know, when it just feels right, it feels right. And Merle Haggard's name has always been in the mix there, and we just thought, what a great opportunity. His music is timeless and always be here with us. And so we're just so glad to have Merle Haggard, and the fact that Ben Haggard was out touring and so forth, it made sense to have Ben be on the festival. It's just another reason to honor his father.
You know, for a musician or
a blessing.
guitar player,
it's a blessing.
it's a blessing. At the same time, you know, we got to keep the knife sharp in order to keep cutting through. So, you know, it's just kind of whatever we can do to keep going.
Trying to do it the way it was meant to be. We want to keep it true.
Is my home.
So, I mean,
that's awesome.
It's a great idea.
It's awesome.
You know, kind of take artists' different point of views, how Haggard influenced them, and get everybody's take, because he touched everybody's heart in a unique way. We're all fans.
Yeah, I like hearing how he influenced people's world. You know, you don't know unless somebody tells you. You know, sometimes it's not common knowledge.
Noel, Ben, thank y'all for being here at MusicFest. It means a lot to us and all the fans here, especially for what your father's done for this whole scene and the inspiration he's gone to it. I'd like to present you guys. Dickson Productions would like to recognize Merle Haggard for his important role in shaping Texas and Americana music, for the bringing of joy and inspiration to countless musicians and fans. I want to say thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right.
Ben, I'm going to take this one. You can get that other one.
Y'all have fun. All right. Thank you, guys. Yeah, man. All right, take care.